Thank you. Who is the presenter?
Arturo Avalos.
Ah, he just presented 2 days ago at my Rotary.
And he has joined the meeting. Would you like me to go ahead and elevate?
Yes, please. It's 3:30, so we'll start the meeting and we'll have our presentation regarding about the Acrisure Arena. Welcome, Mr. Aviles.
Hi, can you guys see me?
Well, no, we see a big red fiery bird.
Okay, I'm not sure why. Do I have to be added as a panelist or? There we go. Okay, perfect.
Ta-da.
Awesome. There we go.
All right, there you go.
All right, so let me go ahead and hi, my name is Arturo Aviles. I'm working with the Coachella Valley Firebirds and the Oakview Group who owns the arena. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can begin. Okay. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Good. Go ahead and close this down. All right, so a state-of-the-art facility with upscale hospitality is coming to the Coachella Valley late 2022. On January 26th, we announced our naming rights partner for the next 10 years. The arena is now Acrisure Arena. This is a rendering of the arena's main entrance, so that's what you're going to be able to see from the I-10, right? Our architects mix desert aesthetics with Palm Springs modernism to create a unique arena with the Coachella Valley essence. Oakview Group is the largest developer of sports and entertainment facilities in the world. We are investing $4.5 billion over the next 3 years in developments. Acrisure Arena alone is costing us $400 million to bring to life. We started up with 250, then it went up to 300, then 350 with all the costs going up. And now we are at 400 million. Here are some of our newest developments. Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle opened in October of 2021. UBS Arena in New York opened in November of 2021. The Moody Center in Austin, Texas will open April 18th of this year. And the rest are opening within the next 3 years. Our leaders, Tim Leiweke and Irvin Azoff, are the founders of Oakview Group. Tim Leiweke is a resident of Indian Wells. He has created many iconic music festivals and currently holds 13 championship rings from the sports teams that he has partnered with. Irvin Azoff was named the most powerful person in the music industry by Billboard. They both have a home in the Coachella Valley. Locally, as I just mentioned, the ownership is the Oakview Group. We have a partnership with the Seattle Kraken up in Seattle. We have a partnership with Live Nation, the #1 largest concert promoter in the world, and with the Burger Foundation, who owns the Classic Club. We have strategically partnered with Live Nation to bring you the best entertainment in the world. Just to give you an idea of how big Live Nation is, they have more than 30,000 events annually in 40 countries. We own the largest list of artists and their management in the world, and there is a Live Nation concert every 18 minutes around the world. That's how big our partner Live Nation is. We are building the most progressive, responsible, and sustainable venues in the world. Seaway Arena will utilize renewable resources to strive for carbon neutrality by 2025. The facility will be powered by solar almost 100% of the time during non-event days, and roughly 30% of the time will be powered by solar during events, but we are shooting for 100% carbon neutrality by 2025. A big concern for our residents is the traffic. That's the one question I always get everywhere I present. The Classic Club, which is right next to the arena, was built. The infrastructure that is in place there now was built to handle 50,000 people for the Bob Hope. The arena will only have about 10,000 people. And on top of that, we are working on a traffic control plan. Another great thing is that all the events will be in the evening, right? Traffic dies out around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Our hockey games are going to start around 7 p.m. and concerts will start around 8 p.m., which is after the big traffic wave. We will have a parking lot for 3,000 cars. We have also partnered with Xavier High School for additional parking. As you can see, we will have 3 large marquees by the I-10 to promote events. This is a nice, accurate aerial rendering of the arena, how it's going to look. On the right here is the I-10 freeway going eastbound, right? Something that many don't know is that the arena is going to have 2 ice sheets, one inside the arena and one in the community ice skating rink. This is going to be a community center, which will be accessible to the community 7 days a week. So it's right here, right on the left side. This is a rendering of how the arena is going to look when we have concerts. As you can see, we will cover the ice for events and we will provide floor level seating. We have designed our arena to create an intimate experience. 90% of the seats are in the lower level. No nosebleed seats. Every seat is a good seat. So all this will be, let me see, where's my little arrow? So the top, see, all this will be general admission for like hockey. And these are the, I'm sorry about that. Let me go ahead and turn that off. These are the suites here at the top, right? And the suite seats will be right in front of the suite. This is an accurate rendering of how the arena is going to look during hockey games. See, these are the suites right here. You can see them. There's 20 of them. There's 10 on each side. And then the rest, it's like a U shape that goes around. And those will be, that will be club seating. This is an accurate rendering of the main concourse. As stated earlier, the arena will have a modernism interior design. We tightened texture and materials. We use light colors to evoke a happy, energetic, peaceful mood. We also added black, gold, and silvers to provide you with a night of elegance. So as you can see, it's going to be really, really nice. This is a rendering that shows the Bunker Club and the VIP Club areas. We will provide upscale hospitality, the best in the world. We designed our arena to create an intimate experience, right? So like I mentioned earlier, every seat is a good seat. The capacity for concerts is 11,000. We can fit up to 11,500. And the hockey capacity will be 10,000. Suites and premium seating will be at the top level. So once again, these are the suites up here. Those suites will have a very exclusive entrance and parking lot right next to it. So you'll be able to access the arena fairly quick. VIP lofts are also at the top, similar to a suite, but shared with others. So these will be the VIP lofts. It's like a big shared suite. The Bunker Club and general admission will be in the lower level. So the Bunker Club will be right here on the left side of the stage, if you're looking from the stage. Music and sports will be the anchor tenants. We will be bringing you the best artists and sporting events in the world. We will offer over 100 plus nights of events, 36 hockey games, 40 concerts, 30 other events such as boxing, basketball, UFC, Disney on Ice, WWE, and much more. The arena was made for music and built with live touring in mind. State-of-the-art facility that will provide you the best experience in the world. We will host residencies. A lot of people always ask me the question, what is a residency? A residency is when an artist performs more than one concert, right? They, like in Vegas, for example, Shania Twain, she's at a hotel in Vegas and she'll be there for like the next month. So here we'll probably hold residencies for like a couple weekends or so, because it's a lot smaller area. But we will provide you with more opportunities to see your favorite shows. For opportunities to win tickets and receive discounts, you can subscribe to our newsletter. You visit acrissurearena.com and you hit the subscribe button. The arena was built for hockey. We will have 36 home games a year. Our team is the AHL, Coachella Valley Firebirds. We are the NHL Seattle Kraken farm team. We are the first professional team in the Coachella Valley. The Firebird is a spiritual descendant of the Kraken. The Kraken is in the deep, dark ocean below, and the Firebird rises out of the flames to soar high above. As you can see, colors are the exact opposite to represent fire and ice, sea and desert. So our primary color is the red alert, and the Kraken's primary color is the ice blue. But if you look at the Kraken logo, they carry the red alert in the eye, and we carry the ice blue in our eye. So it's the yin and the yang, fire and ice, sea and desert. This is our secondary logo, mountains and a palm tree to represent our beautiful Coachella Valley. The palm tree has 9 fronds. Each frond represents a city in the Coachella Valley, and these are mountains up above. Both logos will be included in special color variants to represent diversity. Here's a timeline. We are on schedule to open late 2022. We announced our new arena location spring of 2021. We broke ground late June of 2021. Our Firebirds and logo was revealed fall of 2021. We just recently revealed the new name, which is Acrisure Arena. We revealed the Firebirds jersey, and we just had our topping out ceremony. And we are on schedule to open this year. This is a cool short video of the Acrisure Arena name announcement. I'm going to go ahead and play it for you guys. Hopefully we can get it to play.
The Coachella Valley Arena now set to move forward. Riverside County.
The project, which is set to house the newest American League hockey team.
Long-awaited arena going up where it's going to have sports, entertainment, and much more.
Could not be more proud to announce the partnership with Acrisure on the new arena. OVG and Acrisure are dedicated to using this platform to improve the lives of everybody in Coachella Valley.
Tackling climate change. The big goal here is to become completely carbon neutral for operations by 2025.
I think the community is really going to support hockey to have a vibrant place. It's especially exciting to bring an arena there.
This is about wanting to do something spectacular. There's not going to be another one of these in our lifetime.
All right. These are really cool pictures. These were taken by a drone February 9th, just recently. As you can see, we are moving really, really fast. And you can also visit our website, Acrisure Arena, to see there's a live construction cam where you can see everything that is happening at the arena. Our jersey reveal was January 24th. You can now order your jerseys at cbfirebirds.com. And we have another short video. Here goes. So these are some of the things that we've been doing in the community. We started running street hockey clinics with various youth recreation organizations in the entire Coachella Valley. Shannon Miller, our VP of Community Relations and Branding, is a Hockey Hall of Fame coach who won an Olympic medal, and she is heading the street hockey clinics. These are some of our partners that are listed here. The ACES After School Program at Coachella Valley Unified School District, the YMCA, Desert Recreation District, Desert Sands Unified School District, Boys and Girls Club. And in the picture above there, we actually took 200 ACES kids to their first NHL hockey game ever. They had a great experience, and they're going to be running 21 programs in all 21 school sites starting in March. So these are just some of the things that we've been doing in our community. We have a retail store in El Paseo across the street from the Apple Store. You can also purchase Firebirds gear online at cvfirebirds.com, and you can give a deposit for season tickets. I always get asked about season tickets. For hockey, they start off at $450, 36 home games. If you divide 450 by 36, it is roughly $12.50 per game. So it's very reasonable. And then there's different options for you. We reserved 5,000 tickets, and I believe we are at about 4,600 to date. So if you're interested, visit our website, give a deposit. I believe for general admission, it's $100 deposit required. And for club seating, it's $250, but the tickets are going pretty fast. And that is it. You guys have any questions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Aviles. Does anybody have any questions or comments? And in that, Mr. Aviles has served on city council. He won't be afraid of any of these questions.
No.
Councilmember,
I'll try to answer as best as I can. And if I don't have an answer, like we always say, I'll get it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Aviles. My question for you is in regards to your partnership with Xavier. You mentioned that your overflow parking will utilize their parking lot. So I'm wondering, what does that look like to benefit the school? Are they getting a cut of parking fees? Are the clubs going to help direct traffic the way sometimes softball tournaments in the Coachella Valley do? So what's that partnership look like?
We are going to let them do events at our place, right? They may be having their graduation ceremonies there. I mean, so they're going to be able to use our facilities as well. So that's how the partnership looks. And we're also going to be they may start an actual ice hockey team out of that high school. And they're going to be obviously using our facilities as well. So they will benefit from it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
are there any other questions or comments? Councilman or Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Aviles, hello. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate the
thank you for having me here.
Of course, appreciate the update. I'm wondering about the rest of the land all around the arena. When we looked at traffic mitigation and other planning issues, we saw that there was potential for development for hotels, restaurants, maybe other entertainment venues. What's in the pipeline?
Well, I do know that some of that land is owned by the Berger Foundation, and they are currently working with certain organizations to actually bring additional hotels to the area. What's really cool is that just right across the street, there's a bunch of new hotels as well. So there's a lot of development in that area already. We were actually just invited to a grand opening to one of those hotels there right by I-10 and Cook. So I believe there's 3 new hotels in that area, but I don't know exactly who is coming over, but I do know that we are having conversations for that to happen. As soon as we know, we're going to announce it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Nastandi.
Yes, very exciting presentation, and I'm looking forward to opening day at the arena. And it's good to hear everything's on schedule. Did you, and you mentioned concerts. Have you booked any concerts yet?
We have booked concerts already. I cannot name the artists yet, but we do have concerts in line already.
Okay.
For 2023.
All right, very exciting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I was very impressed to hear, Mr. Aviles, about the carbon neutrality by 2025 and the target of zero waste. I was wondering how many of your products will be compostable and how will you incentivize the guests on their way out to not just throw everything in the one miscellaneous receptacle? Because I mean, when I went to the Raider game, for example, everyone on their way out doesn't have the time to properly sort. So what is your plan for mass volume zero waste?
That is a question for our engineers. I cannot answer that, but I can get you an answer and I can certainly provide it by email. But there is a plan that I can request and they're going to send it to me. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
a
I
great
greatly
question.
appreciate
And
that.
that's the first time it gets asked, and I'll make sure I know next time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I just have one comment, and I do hope that both the Berger Foundation, and I know they are aware of our concern about the infrastructure, and both the Oakview and Mr. Lewicki's group and Berger remain very flexible and aware of the infrastructure issues and the impacts on those on our infrastructure. And when you talk about the Classic Club, and I believe that was built in 2006, and certainly that wasn't a 50,000 in, 50,000 out. That would be over a scattered amount of time. And so, and since that time, as you know, if you go back and look at your pictures, you'll see so many semis, and that has increased incredibly. So we have to make sure that we're watching that, and we make sure we're doing the best for all of our community members up and down the 10 regarding that impact on the infrastructure.
And any concerns that you have, I am the community guy. So you can certainly reach out to me and then I'll pass on the information. If you need, you know, a presentation by some of our engineers, like to answer all the technical stuff, I can certainly schedule that for you guys as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. I guess you did a really good job.
Yeah, I try to update my presentation every time I present so that I answer those questions that I get frequently during my presentation. That way I don't get them asked at the end. So I continue to modify it, but well, thank you so much for your time. If you guys need anything, please provide my email and shoot me an email. Let me know what you need and see what I can do for you.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll see everybody back in 8 minutes. Is that enough time for everyone? Great. See you then. It's 4 o'clock. Is everyone ready? We're missing one, one council member. There he is. Okay, we'll now call the February 24th meeting for the Palm Desert City Council, successor agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority meetings to order. We had no closed session, so there is no report out. We can have roll call now, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Present.
Councilmember Kelly,
Here.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Here.
Mayor Harnick,
Here.
all present.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance, and that will be Councilmember Kathleen Kelly, and we will follow that with inspiration.
World events make it particularly timely to join in pledging our allegiance to a republic dedicated to liberty and justice for all. Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And I have just a short quote from one of my favorite people in American history, and that's Thomas Jefferson. And he says, "I never considered a difference of opinion in politics, in religion, in philosophy as cause for withdrawing from a friend. Friendship is precious, not only in the shade, but in the sunshine of life. And thanks to a benevolent arrangement, the greater part of life is sunshine." So we will go to, I want to make a couple quick notes, if I may. We do have on item number 16, under the action calendar, that is a public hearing. We will be moving that to the public hearing. Additionally, we have the direction for the the public hearing for the new districting having to do with the census. That will be at 4:30. So please, Madam City Clerk, if I don't notice that it's 4:30, please remind me.
Okay.
We will now go to city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I request a 2-minute break real quick and council leave their screens on?
Absolutely. Please leave your screens on for 2 minutes. Thank you.
I'll hold my breath.
Okay, so we skipped over awards and presentations, but not really, because today we want to honor Janet Moore, who has been in charge of just about everything at Palm Desert at one time or another, and is the person who we can say thank you for the great financial stance that we're in. So we're here with Janet because for whatever reason, after 33 years, she's chosen to retire. So we'll start with the proclamation and then of course we want. So, whereas on September 15, 1988, Janet Moore began her career with the City of Palm Desert as the Finance Department's secretary. And whereas Janet was promoted to various positions in the Finance Department and the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency over the next several years. And over the course of 3 decades, Janet's expertise and responsibilities continue to grow. And whereas on July 1st, 2004, Janet was promoted to Housing Authority Administrator to Director of Housing on July 1st, 2007, and on May 2nd, 2016, was appointed the Director of Finance. And whereas in June 2010, Janet was recognized by the Palm Desert Area Chamber of Commerce with the Award of Excellence. And whereas Janet's expertise in city and redevelopment agency financing and affordable housing resulted in her playing a key role in securing and maintaining financing for a multitude of outstanding affordable housing projects in Palm Desert. And whereas, so many whereas, and there could be more, Janet's outstanding contributions are notable throughout the City of Palm Desert and are evident in the myriad public projects and departmental improvements she's implemented during her tenure. And whereas her willingness to share her knowledge with her colleagues has provided our organization with a uniquely valuable resource of institutional memory that will be, like her, impossible to replace. Now, therefore, I, Jan C. Harnick, Mayor of the City of Palm Desert, California, along with the entire City Council, declare Thursday, February 24th, 2022 as Janet Moore. And that's in the City of Palm Desert. We encourage all residents to join us in honoring and celebrating her many years of excellence and dedicated service to our So you want to hold that or not?
And I've got a plaque for Janet. The reason that we're out in the foyer here at City Hall is following our presentation of Janet's plaque today. The area behind us is going to be basically outlined as our employee excellence wall, and Janet's plaque will be the first one put up. To Janet, we have a plaque in appreciation for her exemplary service, September 15th to March 3rd, 2022. We're going to send this one home with you, and then we're going to fix some more corporate. Thank you for everything. And we also had a special guest that Janet did not know about, which made today even more fun. Justin McCarthy was the interim manager back when Janet, from what I understood yesterday, he persuaded her after multiple attempts to take the finance director position. And so thank you, Justin. And we invited him up to be part of Janet's celebration today. So Justin, I don't know if you want to say anything.
There's not much I can add to all the accolades that heaped upon. But I will say this, is I can't think of anybody more deserving of the commentary that's been provided. Janet and I worked together for approximately 10 years. And as she grew in the organization, her value and just the sheer consequence of the role that she played both in the redevelopment agency and then later as the city's director of finance, you just can't say enough about. The one thing I will say about Janet is that no matter what we were doing, she always left me with the illusion that I was in charge.
Well, thank you all very much. And I'll say that it is my privilege. I have had extremely wonderful opportunities here to be part of something that, as I explained yesterday as well, was quite a small city when I started here. And today it's a beautiful, thriving place. And I can't be prouder to have said that I worked here. And I thank everybody for all this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you.
They don't have to go back to work.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go this.
And just an FYI, we did that when we did it because now we're going to go to council member remarks. So everyone has a chance. So we'll wait till our city manager is back, and he's back. Okay, so now we are at mayor and council member reports and requests for action. So let's go with council member Quintanilla first.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to first and foremost give my gratitude to Miss Janet. She was wonderful and providing information and helped me get caught up to speed. So it was great to work with her, even with the brevity. I hate to switch things to a less than positive note, but I wanted to thank all of the city employees, in addition to the sheriff's deputies, and the wide amount of fire support that really prevented a greater tragedy from happening. So my deepest gratitude to everyone that was involved. It not only takes a village, but it takes a valley. So thank you to everyone listening that was a part of that. So, you know, we can provide info on how to help those that were impacted. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Right. Councilmember Kelly.
On that last topic, I think Mr. Heilman has a presentation for the public about the response to the tragic fire. Do we want to insert that now?
Yes, thank you so much for bringing my attention to that. Thank you.
Certainly. Just a quick overview. The fire that Councilmember Quintanilla is referring to occurred about 1:30 in the afternoon and quickly became a 4-alarm fire as the wind spread across multiple structures and palm trees. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department evacuated the mobile home park and the students at Palm Desert Charter Middle School and Lincoln Elementary, and contacted residents in the adjacent park as our CAL FIRE response team, Palm Springs response team, and Cathedral City Fire Departments battled the fire. It was really kind of nice to watch. The Aquatic Center, Community Center were open to residents that were displaced by the fire, and the Desert Recreation District and YMCA staff also assisted emergency management staff with the response. So the American Red Cross provided an immediate response, and they're continuing to provide a response to help folks in need. We did have 2 fire personnel who were injured and transported for evaluation, and 1 civilian who was treated for smoke inhalation. I think I did have a question about the Red Cross's role. They provided financial donations to displaced residents. We had 7 residents at that time for their immediate needs and lodgings, and families were also assigned a caseworker over the next month or so to help them with insurance issues and locate other resources that they might need to move forward. So it was impressive watching the team come together. We will continue to put updates on Engage Palm Desert and push out information about the response that was made by our team. But just a great showing of Team Palm Desert, and More thankfully that no one was permanently injured, that we had some minor injuries. Everyone seems to be okay, and very fortunate. But thank you for the emergency response and the mutual aid that really came to our assistance. At one point, I believe we had over 100 firefighters out on that site.
Thank you so much. Are there any other, I kind of just skipped over, and I apologize for that, to our city manager. Are there any other comments under city manager comments?
If Thomas is on the line, I know he's traveling today. He did have, Thomas is on the line. If we could elevate him, he did have a quick report to provide council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. I have a few events and happenings to let you know about that are upcoming in the next few weeks. On Sundays for the next few coming weeks, we have Sunday Sounds with Palm Desert Library and the DRD happening at 2 p.m. in the amphitheater in Civic Center Park. Those are free concerts for the community to attend on Sunday afternoons. March 5th, also in the park, we have the Wildflower Festival happening. And also on March 5th, CVAG will be having a used oil and oil filter recycling event. That's happening at the AutoZone in Palm Desert from 9 a.m. to noon. And then on March 9th at City Hall, there will be a blood drive open to City Hall employees and to the general public. That's happening from 8 a.m. to noon. All of these things can be found on the city's website at cityofpalmdesert.org. And for all events and entertainment, you can find those at discoverpalmdesert.com. Thank you very much.
And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. We'll get back on track, and I apologize for throwing everybody off a little bit. Councilmember Kelly, please.
Thank you. I certainly join everyone else in expressing profound thanks to all those involved in the emergency response. This is one of those occasions that really showed to advantage the tradition the Coachella Valley has of regional cooperation. And staff goes to great efforts to assure that regional collaboration will allow resources to be deployed as needed in a situation like this, which happened. So congratulations and thank you. Janet Moore is my personal hero. And I hope she's still listening. I would buy a ticket to a presentation from Janet Moore about city finances because they're distilled, they're easily comprehended, and they get you excited about crunching numbers. So Janet, thank you so much for your work with us as a council, helping us to really have command of the finances. I had the privilege of observing Janet deal with some of our affordable housing residents, and I saw her capacity for compassion and resourcefulness and her willingness to help an individual resident, even when she probably had 25 other obligations. So Janet, you're one of those rare people whose emotional intelligence and human skills match your technical skills. You cannot be replaced, but the inspiration you leave behind for all of us will last forever. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, Councilmember Nastandi.
Thank you, Mayor. And I will just add on to Councilmember Kelly's comments about Janet Moore And I remember back in 2020, I had just become mayor and we had the COVID lockdowns, economic downturn, and our finances were basically revenues coming in were going to be cut in half. And under Janet's leadership, she really saved our city by helping really look at the finances, finding ways where we could save money, and really under her leadership, our city has come out stronger than ever. And Janet, you will be very missed. And I hope you have another exciting new chapter in your life to come. Thanks, Janet.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. It is indeed a day of gratitude. I'll start with our public safety officials and the whole team that averted a tragedy. And that's what I'm most grateful about. A situation like that can so easily turn into a massive tragedy. And I firmly believe that the dedication and professionalism of the whole team that responded to that emergency averted that kind of a tragedy. And I'm so grateful that we avoided any kind of major injuries or worse. So thank you to that team that prevented that kind of tragedy. Janet Moore, funny thing, our paths first crossed 40 years ago when Janet was newly employed at Irwin and Anderholt, and I was downstairs employed at Marinoff, Manson, Gordon and Campbell, in an office on El Paseo. Who would have known that decades later our paths would have crossed again? And I won't repeat what has been said. I'll add by saying that to my fellow accountant, that you have a unique combination of being both respected and liked by your colleagues and those that work with you. That is unusual and very, very special. Thank you, Janet, for all your years of service. I'm not sure that the city would be where it is today without you. The only other thing I want to announce, I just want to focus some attention on our monthly newsletter in terms of engaging our residents. Not only do we have Palm Desert in Touch and Engage Palm Desert, but we also have the ability for city news to be delivered right into your inbox. That's the headline. You'll find it in our newsletter, and you can sign up very easily. I did that by going to cityofpalmdesert.org/newsletters. You can even pick and choose which items will be delivered to your inbox. So I encourage residents to take advantage of that. And then speaking of engaging our residents, also in our monthly newsletter is an article that says City seeks committee and commission members. So we're approaching the time when you can submit your application, and we will spend a great deal of time going through those applications and ensuring that as many of our residents that want to be involved in shaping our community have the opportunity to do so. So please look at the bright side, and you'll get that information and much other valuable information. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One of the values in Palm Desert is, without a doubt, it's public safety. And we've always supported our public safety. We've emphasized it. And what happened here shows why that's so important and why that value is so important. And we're all thankful for everyone coming together and making sure that those people who could have, far worse could have happened, came through, because our teams came together. And once again, we're better together, and Palm Desert showed that. So that was great. I wanted to mention a quick little something that, as you know, the Palm Desert sponsors a choreography festival. And on March 6th at 11:30 and 2 p.m. at the Gardens, so it's outside, the Palm Desert Choreography Festival's East Valley Dance Project will be there. And this is free, and it's something that we should all be very proud of. Now, on to Janet. I know I read a whole lot of whereases, and we all know you can write whereases all day about Janet. I think most of us found out that government accounting is wholly different than every other accounting we've ever participated in. And Janet has always been so generous with her time and her knowledge and her experience. And she's been so helpful. And personally, I will tell you, there's been many times where I've had to call her and say, please help me understand this. And she always takes the time, and she understands it so deeply and so greatly, she can't explain it to me. So I appreciate that. And I want to say thank you. And as been alluded to by a couple of my colleagues, there are very few people whose EQ is equal to their IQ. And Janet Moore is one of them. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done for my home, where I live, and for the job I do serving the city. So thank you very much. And now let's have the city clerk, please, give directions on how to be part of the meeting if you so choose.
For those of you on Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment, click on the raise hand button on your screen or smartphone. If calling in using only the phone line, press *9 to raise your hand to speak. And when called upon, press *6 to unmute your line. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state your first and last name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. And I hesitate to do this because you do get 3 minutes. However, I'm going to ask the very patient public who wants to participate, because we have, by law, we must have our public hearing at 4:30. It is 4:28 right now. So rather than cutting anybody off while they're speaking, let's have our public hearing as it is scheduled, and come back, please, to the comments for unagendized items. So the public hearing we're having is item number 22 on the agenda. And let's see. And this is the redrawing of council member district boundaries. So Mr. Richardson, I believe, will be presenting.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll introduce Mel Richardson. Just take a moment. I'm Heather
Right,
Hornig, the assistant to the city manager. Tonight we have a presentation on our census redistricting. And we do have Mal Richardson here from BBK to give a presentation on the process of redistricting and also go over our current draft maps. I would like to point out that in the agenda packet, there was incorrect attachments for attachment 1 and 2 that did not include all the correct demographic information, and that was sent out to you guys with the supplemental material this afternoon. And at this point, I would like to turn the presentation over to Mal.
Thank you, Heather, and it's good to see you again, Council. Thank you for having me back. I'm not sure you have much choice since you have to go through this anyway, but regardless, I'm glad to be here as part of public hearing number 3. Heather mentioned the demographics. I will be going through those with you as we walk through each of the iterations of the maps. So I'm going to share my screen and take us through the PowerPoint. Let me know if you can see that, I guess, by raising your hand. Can you all see that? We're good to go? Wonderful.
Yeah, can you expand it so we don't have all the...
Yeah, I'm going to the slideshow view right now. Is that better for you?
It's great, thank you.
Wonderful. I think what you're most interested tonight is seeing the maps, and especially the next iteration, which is option 3. So most of these slides are slides you've seen before. I will go through them. So we all have the benefit of understanding exactly what the law is, but I'll go through them quickly so that we can get to the maps and have the discussion that I think you and the public want to have. If, as I'm flying through these first slides, you want further information, feel free to stop me and we can have a further conversation about anything. So this is, again, our third public hearing. As a reminder, there are 5 seats in Palm Desert, 4 are in District 2, 1 is in District 1, and those are staggered seats. This districting process was set pursuant to a settlement agreement. It's a little bit different than most cities. This is the process. We are at public hearing number 3, ideally in public hearing number 4. We will introduce an ordinance to approve the final map. What's most important is that we are working against an April 17th deadline. So we can push beyond a 4th public hearing. We just have to adopt a map by April 17th. The rules that govern what you can and can't do include federal law, state law, and general traditional principles of redistricting. Now, I'll spend a bit of time on these tonight, not too much, but just to emphasize that as we work through the various options, we're going to see the tug and play between, for example, federal law and state law, right? The tug and play between compactness and contiguity when you're trying to add more minority voters to a certain district. And the case law allows for that tug and play up to a certain point. You will see a district this evening, for example, that is fairly compact, but suffers from some contiguity issues. And so we just have to make a decision of what we value more as a city and then adopt a map accordingly. And as we work through boundary adjustments, I can give you advice on maybe how far is too far when balancing the federal law against the state law, for example. So just a reminder, this is your existing district map with District 1 in the general center of the city, surrounded in purple by District 2. We are here in large part because we are out of compliance with the settlement agreement. Settlement agreement requires that District 1 have between 18.4% and 21.6% of the overall population, and District 2, 78.4 to 81.6% of the overall population. And so we're trying to balance the population between those districts as required in the settlement agreement. We've discussed those issues. I'll move on from that. The preeminent considerations at play, first and foremost, are population. Now, typically, in the Federal Voting Rights Act, you're looking at equal population, 1 person, 1 vote. Because we are dealing with a settlement agreement, we actually have a different arrangement. I've addressed that. It's basically an 80-20 split. The districts need to be relatively contiguous, right? A district shouldn't be split in half or in 3 or in 4. They should be geographically compact. We shouldn't have odd shapes. We should avoid gerrymandering. We need to pay attention to communities of interest. These are HOAs, school district boundaries, physical boundaries, roadways, riverways, parks, schools, etc. Those that live in the city know intimately what these communities of interest are, and district boundaries should respect these communities of interest. I've mentioned school tenants areas, water district areas, federal, state, county divisions. These don't include incumbents' residences, much to the chagrin of the incumbents, or political affiliations. We get the information for setting these district lines, first and foremost from demographic data, right? Understanding what the population breakdown is, understanding what the minority distribution of population is within the districts, and then from staff, from the public, and from the council. That's the purpose of these public hearings. The purpose of tonight's hearing, again, I've highlighted very quickly the redistricting process. Now we're going to review the draft maps, and then we will get public input and council input on those maps. So at this point, I'm going to toggle out of the PowerPoint into the Google tool so we can see with specificity and drill down into each of the maps. As I walk you through each of the maps, I will explain the demographic data included with each of those maps. Now, there are slides in the PowerPoint that go through the same things, but the map on those slides is pulled pretty far out and it's hard to see the details. So instead of looking at those slides, we're going to look at the Google tool, and you can give me direction on where you would like me to zoom in and how zoomed in. So we start with, I'll start here with the existing districts. Can you all see that? So I will pull out here. It's kind of tough to see, but these are, is it your existing district boundaries kind of hard to see, but here in the middle is District 1. That's what we have right now, which needs to be fixed. I'm going to pull that out, and here's option number 1 that we looked at last time. Got some feedback on this last time. Just as a reminder, option 1 has an exact 80-20 split. Extends the northeast boundary to Hovley Lane. It fills in the area west of the city. It moves the west edge of the district over to Highway 111 and pushes down below Highway 111 for the southern portion of the district. There are 3 numbers, demographic numbers, that we can pay attention to. One is CVAP, the other is voting age population, or VAP, and the final is total population. And in District 1, we're concerned about the Hispanic population. In District 1, you have a 54.8% total Hispanic population, a 50.2% VAP, or voting age population, and a 37.6% citizen voting age population, or CVAP. Now, when the settlement agreement was put together, you looked at voting age population, which is entirely permissible. In federal Voting Rights Act cases, the courts typically look at CVAP. So we've included CVAP here just to give you that idea, because that's what the federal courts look at. But you looked at originally VAP. And to remind you, that's 54.8% in option 1 and 37.6% of CVAP in option 1. Option 2.
Could I just quickly get
Please.
clarification there? The first time I thought I heard you say the full population was 54%.
54.8%, that's correct.
But the VAP is 50.2%.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the CVAP goes down even farther.
Right,
Yep.
right. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so that's option 1. Option 2, just a reminder, it's basically option 1 minus this right here to the west and this to the south. And I'll take the option 1 overlay off now.
Can you zoom in just a little bit while you
Yeah,
still
I'll
have
zoom in.
the overlay? I think that'll help
Yeah.
residents and
And I'll-
ourselves. Thank you.
And I'll toggle back to option 1 again. So there's option 1. And then option 2, we lose this western edge. We lose this southern edge. Okay, so I'll take option 1 off now. And what that does is it decreases slightly the total population in District 1, but we're still within the parameters set by the settlement agreement. So we have 81.51% in 2 versus 18.49% in District 1. And these are the numbers, the Hispanic numbers. Total population, 56.3%. So that's higher than option 1. VAP, 51.7%, again, higher than option 1. And CVAP is 38.7%. That's also higher. They're higher by about 1 to 2 percentage points across the board. And again, the difference is just these notches here and this south notch here. Now, the primary complaint at the last meeting, which was understandable, is that this map is not all that compact. You had this odd little arm extending here, which extended because of a census tract. You had a little portion of the country club included right here. And then we excluded this area around the middle school and the high school. And there was a desire to look at what we could do to include those areas. So that leads us to option 3. I'm going to toggle to option 3 now so you can see the difference. So here's option 3. I'll just toggle back once more. So pay attention, you lose this, and you gain down here. Again, here's the toggle. Okay? So I'll leave option 2 behind. So with option 3, again, you fill in the area around Palm Desert Charter Middle School and Palm Desert High School. You remove that sliver of Portola Country Club. You remove the arm to the west of Portola Country Club, and you remove the area around College of the Desert and fill in the area west of Deep Canyon Road, east of Portola Ave. So what does that do? Well, it certainly creates a more compact district. It looks better, certainly. You do lose a little bit, not that much, a little bit of the Hispanic population. So your numbers, total population is 53.6%. That's versus 56.3 and 54.8. So again, 53.6%, down just a few percentage points. Your total VAP is 48.8%. Again, down 2 or 3 percentage points. And total CVAP is 36.4%. Again, down 1 or 2 percentage points. So that is your demographic numbers. Now, the biggest, what I'll call structural deficiency with this map, I will illustrate by zooming in. We've talked about compactness and contiguity. This is a much more compact district, but it almost splits District 2 in half. You've got this little sliver where you can ride your bike through and connect the north part of District 2 with the south part of District 2, which maintains contiguity. But there's definitely some contiguity weakness there. But you're sacrificing some contiguity for greater compactness, right? And so you're seeing, again, the give and take, right? Having to balance these various factors. Hispanic population or minority population against compactness, against contiguity. I think we have a question. Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I want to ask about a specific quadrant, and if you could zoom back in again to that, that's good, right there. When we were together last, we had asked to include the area, all the areas surrounding the school, which proceeded to the north. There's an added area which has come along for the ride. And that is the area that's bounded by Fred Waring to the south, Deep Canyon to the west, the Wash to the north, and what's that to the east?
Phyllis Jackson.
Yeah, Phyllis Jackson to the east. In terms of census tracts, is it possible to exclude that piece? Because excluding that piece would give us greater continuity, congruity, and it's a rather distinctly different type of housing in that quadrant, which may not have a community of interest with what is to the west of Deep Canyon.
So if I understand the question correctly, we're talking about this area that I'm hovering over right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we can break up census tracts. It's not the ideal. We try to avoid that because it just leads to more work for staff and for the registrar. But that can be done. Again, we want to avoid it if possible. But if, because of communities of interest, contiguity, I agree, it's a really, really tough word to say, but if for those interests, we want to exclude something, we can certainly do that. And if that's council's interest, we can go back and take this area out of this map to create a more contiguous District 3 and make that connection more than just a few feet wide. There's no reason we can't do that.
Okay, we can come back during the discussion time. I just wanted to find out if that was feasible.
Okay, so that is district or option 3. There's an option 4. A member of the public submitted a draft map, and as such, that needs to be presented to the council as well. So this is the most compact map. So I'm going to toggle now to option 4 from option 3. And I'll take option 3 out so you can see option 4. So the coloring's not quite as stark, but you can see here, incredibly compact. The biggest problem that you'll immediately see is complete lack of contiguity, right? It splits District 2 right in half. And that is, we shouldn't do that. We should try to have contiguous districts. Now, if it's necessary to preserve minority votes, for example, you can look at that, but it does make it more difficult. The demographic numbers for this, it's nearly an exact 80-20 split. That's good. The Hispanic population is significantly lower. So the overall population is 46.2%. So each of the other options was over 50%, between 53.6 and 56.3. This is 46.2%. So it's more than 10% below the highest Hispanic population option. Your VAP is 41.9%, again, it's about 10% below your highest. And your CVAP goes down to 48.49% of the total of the CVAP population. So your Hispanic populations are significantly lower in this option 4. But again, you do have a compact district, albeit not contiguous districts, and a much lower minority population. So these are your options. I'm happy to toggle back and forth between any of them, or to field questions about any of them, or to zoom in wherever you'd like.
So we are on questions. So why don't we have Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just, if you go to map option 3 for a second.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and maybe zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I'm just wondering that sliver just below Fred Waring, so just north of Fred Waring, between Deep Canyon and Portola. If you move your pointer to the left,
right here.
Yeah, that
right here.
sliver, yeah. I mean, that seems a little bit contrived to cross Fred Waring and then only capture part of that. And I'm wondering if we eliminate the section that Councilmember Kelly was talking about, can it be replaced with the purple part between Deep Canyon and, yeah, exactly.
We'd have to take a look at the numbers, but just looking at this map, right? This is rough justice, right? But this number of homes looks relatively equal with this number of homes. The question is minority populations, but with our populations, we're in a pretty good place. I wouldn't see this moving the needle too much. It's certainly worth looking at, and you do gain contiguity by doing that and further compactness.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, and we'll hear from Councilmember Kelly, that maybe in reviewing the option of cutting out the one section that she was talking about, but replacing it with that other section, maybe that accomplishes the numerous goals that you've talked about. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Richardson. My question as a predominantly visual learner, I was wondering if it would be possible to take the very helpful charts that were accompanying the maps, not just following option 1, but can they maybe be on the same sheet so that we can look at how each of these compares to another? So not just looking at the borders, but looking at which maps are more compliant.
So if the question, I believe, is can we look at the demographic numbers on the same sheet? So I can pull up those numbers. I can't put them on the same sheet right now. I could do that at a subsequent meeting, or I could take 15 minutes and cut and paste, but I could pull them up right now if you'd like.
That's fine for a different time. My understanding from the last meeting is that this was the deadline of the 11th was so that it could be present for today's meeting, but it's not the complete cutoff. So again, just trying to see what tools we can make available for residents to say they like one map versus another, or how they would like to tweak different areas. I think it would be helpful to know map 1 is compliant here, but not here, just to give a different set of data organization.
So if I understand correctly, the desire is to have a publicly available document that shows each of the maps with the demographic tables side by side, so the public can kind of toggle through those and compare the maps and the data to each other. Is that correct?
Yes, and even if the current maps are left to size, or honestly, if it can just be zoomed in, I think
Yeah.
that, you know, residents know what the northernmost border of the city looks like, but I think if we can zoom in to allow residents to see how it impacts them and what areas they want to edit. But in addition to that, again, just a chart that lets folks see side by side.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, so we will open the public hearing at this time. And are there any other comments or now any questions, additional questions, or any other presentations? And I do see somebody from the public who would like to speak. So why don't we allow Ms. Spear to speak?
Mr. Richardson, do you mind unsharing your screen, please, so that I can put up the timer?
Here we go.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joan Spear, and I want to thank you very much for all the work and diligence you've put into this project. And I'm not sure which map to support. I am currently in District 2, and one of the maps would put me into District 1. In District 2, I don't believe the interests of my neighborhood are adequately represented because all 4 of the city council members for District 1 live far south of me. However, I do get to vote 4 times and have 4 opportunities to have my voice heard. On the other hand, District 1 would have a city council member who represents my interests. However, I would no longer be able to vote for the other 4 council members who are the majority of the council. And this is all very concerning to me. So I would really like to see having my own district. And as I'm looking at the map, how easy it would be to divide into 5 districts and adequately represent the central, east, and north sections. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? Okay, seeing no one, then we will close the public hearing and we'll ask for council comments at this time. Councilmember Kelly.
If we could go back to screen share and put up option 3. What I would like to request would be information about what I will call 3B and 3C. 3B would take up Councilmember Jonathan's suggestion of swapping those 2 quadrants. And 3C would delete the quadrant that I described without replacing it. The reason I think it's important to look at both is that when we first drew the lines for District 1, the quadrant that Councilmember Jonathan described was intentionally cut out because an HOA represents a good part of those houses, creating a different community of interest. Now, that said, let me take another try at it. Contiguity might warrant including that terrain at this stage. But because at that point, we did see a different community of interest, I think it would be worth looking at the demographics both ways to see how that plays out, to see if we get a sufficient population in District 1, simply deleting the quadrant that I described without replacing it. My expectation, just based on impression rather than research, is that deleting the quadrant I described will probably increase the demographic statistics for Latinx. So let's see how that plays out.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I have one, and going along the lines of what Councilmember Kelly has said, and this is not perfect, but it does touch. And if we go up to, we see the City of Palm Desert Hobley Soccer Park, and immediately west of that, now going up Cook, and it's at Hobley Lane on the north side of it. And so, yeah, so here, okay, so Hobley Lane going, now you're going to go west. Right there, that little, you know, of course, I'm using my cursor on it. I think everybody can see it. But where your hand is, that is a soccer park. The next development west of that, not all that way, because you have that empty lot. So yes, can we check into the census to see what the demographics are of that particular one that are in between the empty lot and the soccer park, and see what that does for us as far as numbers go? Councilmember Kelly, I see your hand up.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. And just so the map, there's an apartment building which Mayor Harnick featured to the west of the soccer park. Then there's the soccer park. Then there's largely commercial buildings. And one could certainly draw that whole quadrant into the district to prevent it from looking too choppy. Yes.
Yes. And that's Cantera. The apartments are Cantera. And I think that might work in well. And of course, certainly including the soccer park would then create contiguity. Thank you.
Can you zoom in a little bit more so that I could, I mean, I'm trying to follow along, but would it be possible to zoom in and get a better idea? Okay, thank you.
So the soccer park, and then immediately west of the soccer park is Cantera. I'd like to get those numbers and we can see how that might help us work through this. Are there any other questions? And I didn't close the public comments, and I will close now, and we are definitely on for
I see Councilmember Nastande has a hand, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, she does, but I'm closing the public comments. And now Councilmember Nastande, this is time for our comments.
Okay, well, Mayor Harnick, I thought your suggestion was a wonderful idea, and I wanted to ask Mal what he thought. Was there a reason that area wasn't looked at previously, and what are your thoughts?
No, it's a good question. It's a very good idea. We have tried to adhere as close as possible to your existing district boundaries, right? So we've tried not to push too far north, too far east, too far west. This option 3 does still look a little bit like your existing options. That's the only reason is we've just tried not to push into new territory, but there's no problem with doing that. We could, if you wanted to, we could completely remake District 1 so it looked totally different, but that's the only reason.
Okay. And what I referenced was trying to, our main goal is the majority minority. So if we remove that one quadrant that we spoke of, Deep Canyon, Fred Waring, bordered by the school on the east and the Wash on the north, and then we added that other piece at the top, there is contiguity there, and it may help us with those numbers. And I see Mr. Firestein has his hands up.
Yes, so we did look at some of these different iterations, and certainly we can explore it a little bit more. I think this one that we're looking at along Hoveley, the Hispanic population within that census block, within that area, is not as much as you might think. So the 2020 census demographics show that there is a larger, say, non-Hispanic population within that census block. And that was a reason why staff didn't pursue that a little bit further, presenting the map to you this evening.
Okay, if we could get those numbers, I appreciate that information. If we can get those numbers and then we can see how that works at kind of finding the best solution. Are there any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion at this time. And that's to, by minute motion, receive the report from staff and the city's redistricting consultant on the redistricting process and permissible criteria to be considered to redraw district boundaries and conduct a public hearing, which we've done. So, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Make a second to approve.
Thank you. And can we have a roll call vote, please?
My apologies. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly? Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we're all out of order, so we're going to have to pay attention and follow along. Now we're going back to the non-agenda public comments. So is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on a non-agendized item?
I was having technical difficulties during the vote. Did we get my thumbs up?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. So seeing no one, we will now go to the consent calendar. Does anyone need to pull any items? Or, okay, I see lots of hands going up. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pull number 8, please. Thank you.
Number 8. Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 6, please, if we can pull that.
Okay. And Councilmember Kelly.
And I simply need to recuse myself on item 3B because I am affiliated with the transferring party.
Great, thank you. So would anybody like to move the balance with a recusal registered by Councilmember Kelly and all other items on the consent item other than 6 and 8?
I make a motion to approve all the items except items 6 and 8, and Councilmember Kelly recuses herself from number 3.
Thank you. And there is a second. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes, on everything except 3B.
Thank you. Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick?
Yes.
Motion passes as we stated. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll take these in order. We will start with 6, the resolution to adopt goals and priorities for the 2022 calendar year.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 points on this item. Number one, in general, I would want to urge staff to publicize the adoption of these goals and priorities so that our residents are fully aware of the direction their city is taking in the coming year. And I would leave it to staff who's very expert at using social media and our newsletter and so forth to do so. And number two, there is, under the priorities that were discussed and didn't get elevated to adoption for the coming year, one of those was brought up by Councilmember Nastandi about the school district boundary changes. And I wonder, we do have a subcommittee in place for the redistricting. And I wonder if the subcommittee can at least be reactivated and work with staff without investing too much time and resources to start exploring and developing an understanding of the process involved in requesting a realignment of the school boundaries. I'm not suggesting that we move forward with that it occupy a great deal of staff or council time, but that we simply reactivate the subcommittee and have it work with staff to at least begin the exploration of and develop an understanding of the process.
So you're not suggesting, you're just suggesting that with the subcommittee to bring information back for the council to review and then decide a direction.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a splendid idea. Are there any other comments on, and we did receive, I hope everyone received the amended on the, what was it? It was on the broadband with the new wording on the broadband. Did you all have a chance to read that?
Yes.
Okay. And Councilmember
It's available if you're interested in seeing them as well.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kelly, your hand is up.
Yes, seeing no other hands, I will move to adopt the recommendation with great gratitude to Mr. Firestein and Ms. Horning in particular for doing such a superb job of organizing our discussion of these items.
Great. Thank you.
I would second the motion, gladly.
All right, can we have please roll call vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. We'll now move to 8, which is the resolution to support net metering. And we have Andrew Firestein is on and Councilmember Quintanilla, you pulled the item.
Thank you,
Would
Mayor.
you like a presentation from Mr. Firestein?
I would appreciate that.
Mayor and Council, I'm not sure that I have much of a presentation this afternoon, but this is an item that has been before the California Public Utilities Commission for a little over a year. There have been multiple opportunities for parties to submit proposals and for there to be consideration, testimony, briefings, and whatnot before the California Public Utilities Commission. In December, they released the proposed decision, and there was a comment period on that proposed decision. That generated a lot of interest, a lot of comment from many interested parties across the state. This was initially expected to be agendized for the January 27th California Public Utility Commission meeting. It was not, and it was not scheduled for the February 10th meeting. It is staff's understanding that this item has been postponed for consideration for a period of time. It has been reassigned to a new member of their board or to a different member of their board who has requested additional time to consider that proposed decision. So there may be some new ideas, some new information coming out. Nonetheless, the staff report you have before you this afternoon, together with that resolution, is encouraging a, say, new look at that proposed decision and those alternatives that may better balance those goals that are described in the staff report. And with that, I'll open this up to any questions that council may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Mayor. Mr. Firestein, my question comes back from an email that we received in terms of the decision to opt in or out. And I was wondering if that is something that would come along as we're discussing renewable energy. How do those kinds of changes come in? As people hear there are changes coming, they may want to know if they have a choice in the matter and how it will impact them. So these are comments from the community. I know the staff report has a lot in there, but these are the questions that I'm hearing most frequently from the average resident.
So I apologize, I may have to ask for clarification on what you mean by opt-in or opt-out.
So when, for example, if we look at what happened in the city of Palm Springs as they were dealing with the community choice, some residents and the way that they were enrolled in the program caused a lot of concern and confusion. So as this applies, how will residents be impacted? Are these changes that will just be available for everyone, or how will this be implemented, and what are the impacts to average residents? For example, the question that came in about affordability or for residents on fixed incomes?
Sure. So right now, California is operating under the net energy metering 2.0 model. That does offer certain tariffs, rebates for energy that's generated and distributed back to the grid. That I think has made certain systems advantageous or desirable, and others may not be as competitive. I think that there was a push, a drive to revisit that net energy metering 2.0 model, which really resulted in that year-long process with the California Public Utility Commission. So this does change that equation, and I think there are some pros, there are some cons to that, and I think at this point it's really important to see just where the discussion goes with the California Public Utility Commission. This is different from Desert Community Energy and from the Community Choice Aggregation. These are two very separate, distinct issues. I want to make sure that we're not conflating the two. This is net energy metering that would affect solar panels on residential properties, commercial properties.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I realized I was about to make a comment, so I didn't know if we were into the comment period.
That's just fine.
Okay. Thank you. Got to follow the rules here. Didn't want to not do so. So look, I think that solar panels and how extensively they've been implemented in California have had the single greatest impact on creating clean energy in this state. And part of the reason that that program has been so successful is because of net energy metering, which has made it financially feasible for individual homeowners to install solar panels. The utilities do not benefit from that financially, and they have been fighting it for quite a while. I think if we are concerned about the environment, then it is important that we support net energy metering. And therefore, I am in favor of the resolution and would make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Thank you. I'm going to second that for discussion because I see two hands up. Councilmember Nastandi, please.
Yeah, I am going to support consent item number 8. I did ask the question of staff earlier yesterday about some of the details of net metering, and my concern is that with net metering, while it's a good thing for those that can afford to have the solar panels, a lot of the cost of that net metering going to people with solar panels is that the people that can't afford solar panels, their electric bills are going up. And staff did answer our question. I think we all read the notes. So voting yes on this doesn't really affect the outcome of how we can resolve the inequity of income with those that can't afford solar panels with those that can. And that's what I think is going to be a challenge moving forward.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, Councilmember Nestante perfectly expressed the challenge. We want to incentivize solar and providing adequate compensation for the excessive energy generated is part of incentivizing solar. But we also don't want to place too great a burden on those who, for whatever reason, don't have access to solar. It's a challenging issue. I support of the stance described in this action item because it encourages continued consideration of multiple alternatives to try to strike the correct balance. The Sierra Club, which most assuredly wants to see more solar, is encouraging a step-by-step approach to assure that all interests are adequately addressed. So it seems to me that the proposal before us strikes the right note in urging that the PUC proceed slowly with careful examination of all alternatives.
Hey, thank you very much. And I do want to add one quick comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Fireside, for all the work you did on this. I know we threw a lot at you and you seemed to put it through a sieve, and something that we could understand came through it. So I appreciate that. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nestande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Item passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this is another one of those where we have to pay attention. We're going to 17 on the action calendar. And let me change my computer to that. This is the ordinance amending Palm Desert Municipal Code 2.34.010 to base commissioner and committee member attendance upon the fiscal year. And Heather Horning, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Heather Horning, Assistant to the City Manager. A little while back, we changed the advisory board member appointments to go from the calendar year to the fiscal year. And we thought it would be good to look at revising the attendance records to no longer be calendar year. So before you is an ordinance to change it to be based on the fiscal year to match the appointment terms. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? And we have one from Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a very quick question. Ms. Horning, I assume that if this resolution is passed, that the bylaws for all of our committees and commissions will be amended accordingly?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes. I want to ask you about a third possibility to see if that would be feasible, which is not to use the calendar year or the fiscal year, but simply to say that absences, 3 unexcused absences from regular meetings in any 12-month period would result in resignation. The reason I'm asking about any 12-month period is using either the calendar year or the fiscal year still makes it possible for someone to miss 4 meetings in a row, 2 on each side of the dividing point. So would it be feasible, given your examination of this issue, to use any 12-month period?
Yes, that would definitely be feasible. If council wanted to make that change, we can definitely do so tonight, and I will make sure to get that corrected, and it'll reflect that way on the second reading of this ordinance.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, your hand is up.
Thank you. Question, Councilmember Kelly. You're not wanting to eliminate the fiscal year for appointment of members for committees and commissions and their terms, as well as appointments of committee chairs and vice chairs. You're simply looking at a 12-month rolling period for absences. Did I understand that correctly?
Precisely.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question. I'm just going to say that I motion to approve.
Okay. So, and we do have D, E, F, and G, and one says 1 absence, one says 2. So we'll just do that over the annual, rolling 12-month period. That makes perfect sense. So we did, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, your hand's up.
Councilmember Quintanilla, is your motion inclusive of the suggestion made by Councilmember Kelly?
I motion to approve staff's recommendation with the 3 absence contingency. I think it's very critical that we don't have any opportunities to miss quorum. And yes, we have placed alternates to help alleviate that, but I think it's critical to maintain an attendance requirement.
On a rolling 12-month basis?
Can I add something, Councilmember Quintanilla, because it's not as simple as 3. If we look at the 4 examples, there are sometimes 6 unexcused absences. It depends on the regular meetings in any one year. So there's 3, there's 6, there's 2, there's 1. So we want to cover it all, but we still want to just say it's the rolling 12-month. We want to give it that rather than give it specific dates.
Can we establish that to a percentage of attendance and say must be present for 80% of the meetings? So it's variable. I mean, it varies by commission.
Good.
Go ahead, Councilmember Kelly.
Yes. The way it operates in the current ordinance is made dependent on the frequency of the meetings. And I would suggest that that's all been very well thought out in terms of how many absences are appropriate in each circumstance. So we are less likely to create unintended consequences tonight, I believe, if we just limit ourselves to defining the 12-month period in which permitted absences are measured. The draft that we've been given has a red line which replaces the calendar year with the fiscal year. And I was simply suggesting that red line change to any 12-month period. So if you like that motion, I'll second it.
I do like that motion.
Right. And I see Mayor Pro Tem's hand is up again.
Yes, thank you. So it occurs to me that attendance, becomes important, and I wouldn't want a member of a committee or commission to be caught unawares about their absences. So it doesn't need to be part of the motion, but I wonder if staff can include in each agenda a box showing the attendance data for each committee. I believe that is not overly taxing on staff because they have that information. It would just be a matter of placing it on each agenda. Can staff comment on that? Ms. Horning, perhaps, is that doable, easily doable?
Yes, that is easily doable. We are in the process right now of standardizing a lot of things with committees and commissions. Attendance and reporting of that is one of them. We are also switching to a new software system that will assist with our agenda preparation to make them all look uniform, and we will incorporate that.
Awesome.
And just to make sure that we are abundantly clear, I went ahead and made drafts of the revisions that you guys just suggested. So I'm just going to pull it up just to make sure that we are all on the same page. If you could give me 1 second here.
Thank you. And while she's doing that, Mayor Pro Tem, your trustee committee and commission subcommittee is working on this. And we're incorporating those suggestions.
So the suggested changes would eliminate the January 1st through December 31st section as it was proposed before, and change 1 year to 12-month period for each one of the items D, E, F, and G.
It's ideal.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we do have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. We will now move to 18, consideration of an appeal to reaffirm city staff's decision to deny the issuance of 10 short-term rentals, parenthetically STR, permits related to the planned residential zoning district that do not comply with Palm Desert Municipal Code, Chapter 5.10, short-term rentals, Section 5.10.070, because the 10 properties do not exist within a homeowners association, parenthetically HOA, as envisioned by that chapter. And that is that Kevin Swartz who will be presenting?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Kevin Swartz, Associate Planner from the Planning Division. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So just a brief background. On December 10th, 2020, the City Council adopted ordinance number 1360. There were several amendments, but one of the main amendments included section 5.10.070C, which stated a new short-term rental permit in the planned residential zones will not be issued unless issuance of the permit is approved in writing by the homeowners association having jurisdiction over that property. So on December 15th, 2021, the city received 10 short-term rental applications for properties scattered throughout the planned residential zones. To note, these are permits that terminated at the end of 2021. The applications included a letter from Ironwood Estates Association stating that they are a registered HOA with the state of California. This is a map showing the 10 properties highlighted in a red dot. So you can see in the north area here, you have Frank Sinatra, Shepherd Lane, you have 3 here. You have Monterey, Hoveley Lane West, you have 4 properties here. Over in the corner over here, you have Hoveley Lane East, this is Sandcastle, Easy Street, and then you have 2 off of Deep Canyon south of Magnesia Falls here. So staff declined to process these 10 short-term rental applications based on staff's understanding of what an HOA, is per the discussions back in 2019, 2020, that these properties are not contiguous properties. There is not a governing board over this neighborhood of a common interest development. These areas are not self-regulating, potentially have the ability to issue fines. So the 10 applicants have filed a joint appeal, which is in front of the City Council tonight. Staff's recommendation is for the reasons stated, outlined in the staff report, to deny the applicant's appeal, thereby reaffirming staff's decision to deny the issuance of the 10 short-term rental permits that they do not comply with the Palm Desert Municipal Code, since they do not exist within an HOA. And then I'll leave this map up here. This is basically the same map. The 10 properties are highlighted in a yellow dot, and the red indicates the 4 planning areas, or the 4 planned residential areas that we studied back in 2018. So you could see that 9 of these properties are located within those areas. So are there any questions of staff? The city attorney is also available to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Before we go to comments from the public, are there any questions of staff? I see none, but I do see somebody from the public who would like to speak. Ms. Tragars, you have 3 minutes. And there we go. Okay.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. I am Nancy Tragars, and I represent the appellants whose permit applications to renew their existing short-term rentals properties was denied by the city staff. Ordinance 1360, adopted in 2020, was codified in the Palm Desert's Municipal Code, Section 5.10.070, and subsection D in essence states that existing short-term rental permits in the PR zones may be renewed, but all short-term rental permits shall terminate and such uses permanently cease operation by December 31st, 2021, unless the issuance of the permit is approved in writing by the homeowners association having jurisdiction over the property. In addition, the city's municipal code states that the planned residential districts, PRs, needs to provide for flexibility in the residential development. Prior to December 31st, 2021, each of my clients who had a prior short-term rental permit submitted an application to renew their permit with a letter from the homeowners association having jurisdiction over their property, approving the STR in compliance with the clear, plain, unambiguous language of the ordinance. Yet the city staff denied their application. The case cited in the staff report for this meeting, Aguilar versus Superior Court, states, we begin by examining the statutory language, giving the words their usual and ordinary meaning. If there is no ambiguity, then we presume the lawmakers meant what they say, and the plain meaning of the language governs. The ordinance is very clear. It says HOA. It does not state anywhere the HOA was to be a gated community or that there was to be contiguous. So we do not even need to get to that issue of what the staff thinks was the council's intent. The fact that the staff report goes on to recommend the short-term rental subcommittee to guide the drafting of a formal definition of an HOA supports our position. As the ordinance is currently written, you had no legal basis for denying the permits. Each of the 10 applicants had a letter of approval from the HOA which governs them. Secondly, the November 10th, 2020 staff report states, effective enforcement of regulations on short-term rentals is only feasible if there's an active HOA that is willing and able to do so on behalf of its members. My clients have exactly that, an active HOA that is willing and able to enforce the rules and regulations as stated in its CC&Rs and bylaws. And contrary to your staff report, they do have a governing board to govern that and enforce it and rules, which we have submitted. Most of your other HOAs do not have rules that actually go and address short-term rentals, which ours have done in their CC.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you, Mrs. Tragars.
Yes, I thought the city attorney said they would allow us some additional.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, I see Mr. Harkness has his hand up.
Yeah, if I could interject, we got a slightly different situation here. This isn't really public comment. Ms. Trezar represents the appellants. This is their hearing, so I would suggest she be given the time she needs within reason to make her argument, and then we can respond at that point. So,
And what would that within reason be, Mr. Hargreaves?
well, she's proceeding, rather carefully and diligently. So let's just let her go and see how long it goes. But certainly not more than 10 minutes, and she's already, another 7 minutes should be plenty, I'm sure. But
okay, thank you. Please continue.
Thank you very much. The city ordinance and municipal code fails to define HOA, and nowhere does it require the HOA to be gated or the homes to be contiguous. When the city was in the process of drafting and ultimately enacting the amendments to the code, Officer Pedro told residents that if you want to keep renting, just make an HOA with a few people and they will approve the permit. So that is what my clients did, and they relied on staff's advice and incurred legal costs in doing so. Now, the staff report states an uptake in new STR permits in the PR zones without an active HOA was evident, but there was only 6 new STR permits in the 4 neighborhoods in 2019, which is not much of an uptick. COVID caused shutdowns of restaurants and bars in 2020. And, people weren't flying, so people started renting these STRs, and sometimes, maybe they were throwing parties due to the shutdowns that they couldn't be in restaurants or in bars. So that at the time the city was doing this analysis and places ban is was a very unprecedented year, which doesn't reflect true demand in the rental history. And now that restaurants and bars have reopened and these issues have stopped, but to permanently take away a property right from these homeowners is fundamentally wrong. There's also a loss of revenue to the city in a time when cities are looking for revenue. In addition to the TO tax for the city, short-term rentals generate additional revenue for business owners, creating additional sales tax revenue for the city. Short-term rentals create jobs for your residents as house cleaners, gardeners, security guards. And perhaps the appropriate response is to reevaluate the situation now that the restaurants and bars have reopened, analyze the essence of the complaints, who's making them, as to which properties, and to deny the properties to those individual owners who have repeated complaints, but not to punish innocent property owners who have followed the rules. In addition, you're not treating the property owners equally in the PR zone, raising constitutional issues of equal protection and discrimination in property rights. The applicants have fundamental vested rights in renting and in renewing their permits. The city is punishing innocent owners for the transgressions of others, the owners who do not control their tenants and the tenants who are creating a nuisance. So instead of enforcing the law to protect its residents. Hence, we respectfully request the city issue the permits to the applicants. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see Mr. Hargreaves once again has his hand up, please.
Yeah, if I could respond just on a couple items. First of all, there was a mention about Officer Pedro suggesting that, that they could go out and form an HOA and everything would be all right. I assume Officer Pedro is Pedro Rodriguez, who's the Chief Code Enforcement Officer, and I've communicated with Pedro on that, and he denies ever making that statement. So maybe there was a misunderstanding. With respect to the legal authority cited, the underlying principle is it's statutory interpretation, and when there is ambiguity, and I would suggest, given the circumstances, that HOA, the language in the ordinance says the homeowners association having jurisdiction over the property, and obviously there's ambiguity because there's certainly not a clear understanding between staff and the applicants and probably the city council about the homeowners association having jurisdiction over the property, what exactly that means. And when you have that kind of ambiguity, you go back to the intent of the people that, the city council, what was the city council's intent when they adopted that language? And that's why it's basically back in front of you to clarify your intent, and the staff kind of outline their understanding of your intent in the staff report. And if your intent was different when you adopted that, then let us know and we'll act accordingly. But I think just looking at that map with those 10 properties scattered all over the city in areas that were specifically targeted for eliminating short-term rentals clearly isn't within certainly our understanding of what your intent was. So our recommendation is that you deny the appeal for the reasons stated in the staff report, number one, and number two, that you reactivate the short-term rental committee to come up with a definition that's, let's say, less subject to interpretation than the one that we currently have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Hargreaves?
Yes. Mayor?
And this is for Mr. Hargreaves?
Yes.
Okay, please.
Yes.
And we do have, I see someone is waiting in the public to speak as well.
Okay, so just take away the short-term rental issue. Let's just say we're discussing what makes an HOA legally. And so legally, was an HOA formed legally? And if so, did all the residents have the opportunity to vote? So was everything handled legally in the forming of this HOA they have?
Well, I
Because
think
at essence, we're talking about what makes an HOA and what does not, which could affect all our communities that have HOAs, not even related to short-term rentals. It could be a myriad of issues. So I believe this is the real issue. What makes an HOA?
Well, and yeah,
Is that what you've asked the subcommittee to get together and define?
Well, exactly, because there's the typical understanding out there is you have these common interest development, which is a development that's developed with common areas, and you have an HOA that kind of administers the common areas, and there's a defined boundary, and often there's a gate, and that's what we commonly know when we talk about HOAs. And I believe, and it's my belief, that that was the city council's kind of operating assumption when they went forward. But I mean, you can form homeowners associations around anything, right? I mean, you can come up with a homeowners association, but for us, for the city council, the question isn't what in the total universe would this fit in as an HOA. The question for the city council is, with respect to the ordinance that you adopted, what did you mean when you said homeowners association, right? And that's, and I think there's a certain amount of nebulousness there, but in any case, I think that 7 homes scattered throughout the area clearly isn't what was intended. And that's why we suggest that we recommend that this appeal be denied, and that we send the subcommittee back to kind of clarify exactly what the city's looking for in an HOA that would be approving short-term rentals.
Bob, with all due fairness, though, I believe this is a legal issue and you're our legal representative. And I believe the issue is what defines a HOA legally. We have several HOAs throughout Palm Desert, and this could affect other issues, not just short-term rentals. If we as the city council and ad hoc committee are going to legally determine what makes an HOA.
Well, we're not asking.
These are my comments.
We are not asking the city council to determine what is an HOA for the universe of issues out there. We're asking the city council to determine what's an HOA for a particular provision in the short-term rental ordinance. So with respect to implementation of the short-term rental ordinance, what does the council mean by HOA, right? I mean, that's kind of the issue that's before us.
Right, but that could set a precedent then for other HOAs.
This is a time for questions because we do have public comments. So please, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, and I see also Councilmember Quintanilla has her hand up. Are these questions?
Mhm.
Okay, let's hear it. Councilmember Quintanilla.
I thought Mayor Pro Tem was going first. I saw his hand up before mine.
He was, but he put his hand down.
Okay,
Did
perfect.
you mean to?
No, I was getting ready to ask my question.
Oh, I apologize. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Quintanilla. So, Mr. Hargreaves, what I'm interpreting the recommendation here is the city is being asked to clarify its intent in drafting the ordinance. Is a city within its legal authorization to clarify its intent in drafting an ordinance, any ordinance?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hargreaves, my question is, one, how many HOAs do we have in Palm Desert? Because I think that's something that bears mentioning. And two, do we have any of the existing HOAs spread over such a large expanse of non-contiguous homes? Thank you.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Schwartz to address that because he's more familiar with the HOAs within the city.
You know, unfortunately, we don't have an exact number of HOAs in the city. We could put something together for you and provide that at a future meeting.
Can I ask, is it more than 50? Is it more than 70? Is there a ballpark that you can give just for reference?
It's definitely more than 50.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Well, the other half of the question was, are we aware of any other circumstance where a smattering of houses distributed throughout the city have formed an HOA?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right, are there any other more questions? And if not, I see someone from the public would like to speak. So if there's no more questions, Ellen Kane, your hand is up. Can we please bring Ellen Kane onto the Zoom? You can, if you unmute yourself, you can speak, please.
Here I go. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members. I'm very concerned about any approval of a homeowners association that smells like it was formed purely for the purposes of avoiding the normal STR rules and regulations. If this is approved, I can see a whole lot of other short-term rental owners deciding to form an association simply to challenge the ordinance. I applaud and thank Mr. Hargraves for his comments. I think that he has spelled it out very succinctly, and I subscribe to what he has to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we can have discussion. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I want to strongly discourage us from deciding any more than we need to decide this particular appeal. And the question presented by this appeal is, was this circumstance within our contemplation when we included the clause in the STR ordinance that refers to HOA permission for short-term rentals? And my answer is unequivocally, this situation was not within our contemplation. We adopted the HOA exception in the view that a defined community would be able to self-determine. If a defined community represented by an HOA determined that the majority wanted STRs, that could be accomplished. But what's before us in this appeal is not a defined community. It's a smattering of houses from throughout the city. The appellant has urged use of plain and simple, meaning has urged use of terms as they are commonly understood. And it seems to me crystal clear that the commonly understood meaning of an HOA is a defined community of contiguous homes. So I certainly am in favor of upholding staff's determination. And I think Ms. Kane has named it. This methodology has the capacity, if approved, to circumvent the entire STR ordinance. And it would not have been our intention to spend months and months and months of fine-tuning an STR
ordinance and to include such an easy method of circumvention. So again, I want to urge us to limit ourselves to what we need to decide to handle this appeal. Was this circumstance within our contemplation when we approved the HOA clause? And for me, the answer is unequivocally no.
Thank you. Councilmember Nastandi?
Thank you, Mayor. And Councilmember Kelly, I agree 100% at what you just said. And I don't think I'm making myself clear though, and maybe this is again for Mr. Hargreaves. I'm just trying to figure out this Ironwood Estates HOA. Did they form an HOA and then get all the community and on all those streets? That was my question to you. What, or is it just these 10 people that form their own HOA? That's what I'm trying to get my hands around.
I think it's easily shown on that map. It's just those dots on the map.
So so the dots on the map is the Ironwood Estates HOA, just those 10 homes, not the whole street, not
right.
Okay, that's where my confusion was.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, I completely agree with Councilmember Kelly's perspective on this. And clearly, in my mind, when we drafted the STR ordinance, we envisioned what I would term traditional HOAs, contiguous homes, often, you know, behind gates and so forth. The staff's recommendation is not addressing what a legal definition of an HOA is. It is addressing what council's intent was when it specified that homes within an HOA require the approval of the HOA. And so the answer to my question from legal counsel, are we acting within our legal authority to clarify our intent in drafting the ordinance? The answer is yes. And I think that that's what staff's recommendation is. And based on my interpretation and as stated by Councilmember Kelly, this so-called HOA does not meet our intent. Furthermore, I do think that a clarification of intent is appropriate. Therefore, I would move to approve staff's recommendation.
Okay, and Councilmember Quintanilla, you have your hand up.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
For discussion purposes, we have a motion and a second.
I have a comment. I'll make it very quick. In listening to everything my peers have said, in particular, council members Nastandi asking, did they get everybody's information in between? And that to me is the key point. An HOA isn't made up by a dot to dot. And to put it very simply, just because you've got 7 ingredients doesn't mean that you can make it into dinner. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I do want to make a quick comment. It was clear what the intent is. The HOA is clear. And certainly if you put it to the test of a reasonable person of ordinary prudence, they would tell you what an HOA is. But this was a creative way to skirt around something that everyone else is working with. And it was not the intent. And they know it wasn't the intent. And that's why they worked to make something up, to conjure something up. That was not the intent of what we put in place for our community. So we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes, now that I understand.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I request a small comfort break before we continue to the next items?
Absolutely. How long do you need?
Second the motion.
Oh, how long is
8-10 minutes? I don't know how my peers feel about it. Is that enough time for everyone?
5:55? Why don't we?
Let's go 5.
Okay, so why don't we come back at 6? Is that enough for everyone? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We're ready to go. Our next item is number 19, request for direction regarding recommendations contained in the 2021 brokers report. And who will be giving that presentation?
Yes, good evening, Mayor. Eric Seha, Deputy Director for Development Services. Myself and Deborah Glickman, our Management Analyst with the Economic Development Division, will be giving you a report. I think we just want to share a couple slides with you on this one. Really, this is the genesis of an entire year's work of effort for the Economic Development Division in meeting with our business community as well as our commercial broker community here. Early in 2021, we presented a brokers forum. I think we had 15 different brokers participate in that forum. We were able to present new information about COVID relief programs, information about other city programs that are available, and really talk about other new projects that we're starting to develop during this past year. In a follow-up to that brokers forum, through the remainder of this year in Q3 and later this winter, we again re-engaged the commercial broker community. Really the intent of those meetings was to gain additional insights, what they were seeing throughout the rest of the 2021 year. We also wanted to get some specific feedback about how the city can help in any of their processes. And we got some great feedback from them. And part of today's presentation is to request direction from you to have staff initiate a zoning ordinance amendment to expand on the land use categories that we do have in our zoning ordinance, and to allow for certain desirable land uses to move from a conditional use permit to a more streamlined administrative use permit process. And we'll get the next slide. And so meeting with the broker community, there's a lot of interest for new veterinarian or boarding, pet boarding facilities. And so we want to expand on those uses. And for those types of uses that we do want to see expand in the city, like restaurants, daycare centers, health clubs, or indoor automotive sales, we'd like to modify our zoning table to move them off a conditional use permit to an administrative use permit. Again, this is a much more expedited process, allows them to get through a zoning process much quicker. But it still engages the public and requires a public notification package. It's just one is handled at staff or administrative level versus going through the Planning Commission. So we want some specific feedback on that tonight and requests to actually initiate that zoning ordinance amendment. That is the report for the brokers report. Deborah also has a report on the business report for 2021. Both reports were provided to you as an attachment to the staff report. So we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening. Over the third quarter of, sorry, that was meant to be fourth quarter of 2021, the Economic Development Department interacted with about 250 businesses. That included business visits, that included emails, phone calls, interaction with brokers. It included existing businesses and businesses that were interested in coming into the city. I would say the most frequently asked question during that time, especially from brokers and new businesses, was about zoning, what businesses could go where, which is part of what spurred what Eric just introduced to you, as well as there were several business license questions, but those issues have been mitigated once the third party HDL got up to speed and is issuing business license. We're not receiving those calls very much at all anymore. I'm pleased to say that businesses reported that they are doing well in recovery and that the Unite Palm Desert loans and grants that the city gave were a huge help to all of the businesses to stay in business and to continue to pay their employees during the time of the shutdown. Several of them said that they didn't need to stop paying their employees, which is really important. In October, the staff put together a business survey that's been posted on the Engage Palm Desert website, and also engaged with CB Strategies, who is already out on El Paseo talking to the businesses. We engaged with them to actually encourage businesses to take the business survey, as well as just get more feedback on a day-to-day basis from the businesses on how the city can better serve its businesses. And CB Strategies does supply us with a monthly report of information that they receive from those businesses. During this last quarter, there were 166 new business licenses issued. Those are licenses specifically in the city, including home-based business and commercial and commercial locations. The most exciting news is that vacancies throughout the city, specifically on El Paseo, were at a 10-year low or very, very close to a 10-year low. You have graphs in the staff report that show you 3 different areas in the city, the northern area of the city, El Paseo, and then citywide. So that's great news, not for businesses trying to get into the city and land here, but we had some really good feedback from the brokers that they're not only were they leasing properties, they were actually selling properties that wouldn't traditionally have been sold. And there were a lot of new entrepreneurs coming into the community. And that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. So first, let me say that, you know, our city often says that we're business friendly, but the breadth and depth to which you are engaging our business community and our development community is a wonderful demonstration of how we truly are business friendly. So thank you for doing this. Here's the question, probably to Mr. Ceja, if we can look at the previous slide. I really like the whole concept of an administrative use permit because everybody wins, right? The applicant, the city, and presumably the community. So I'm wondering, and I know that you're looking at applying the AUP process to desirable types of uses, but I'm wondering if staff considered expanding the AUP process to really all situations, and as I understand it, a zoning automatically allows certain uses, but then allows other uses within that zone only if there's a conditional use permit. So you're seeking to replace the CUP, in those instances, replace the CUP process with an AUP process. I'm really proud that I'm, you know, using acronyms just like all government people do. And so the question is, why wouldn't we, did staff consider broadening the use of the AUP process? That's the question.
Yes, we have. So the AUP process is already in our land use table. And you're right, our table lists a number of commercial uses that you can do in certain zones, and they're either allowed or conditionally allowed. And that conditionally allowed is that conditional use permit. We'd like to reduce some of those requirements down to that AUP level. We have looked at the comprehensive zoning table for the list of land uses. We thought these were some desirable ones that we heard specifically from the brokers community that they have a lot of interest in at the moment, which is why we identified this category now to move forward with through an AUP.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Ceja, I'm trying to go back to where I had it in my notes. My understanding is that this would allow for certain land zoning areas that may be potentially residential now to be switched over to commercial depending on the region. Am I correct in that?
No, that's not the intent of this. And there's 2 different processes. One would be a change of zone for the land itself, which is not what this is. This is a change to the zoning ordinance, which just reduces the requirement from a conditional use permit to the AUP.
Perfect. That was my only question. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the steps for a CUP versus an AUP. And they both seem to include a public hearing. But the AUP does not include the Planning Commission. So where does the public hearing happen with an AUP?
Sure. Once an application is received, we notify the adjacent properties that this proposed use is coming in and that they can request a public hearing within a 10 or 15 day of that notice. Then we would host a public hearing just at a staff level where we can address and hear any concerns about the proposed use, find ways to mitigate or condition them to lessen them.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move staff's recommendation.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move on to item number 20. Authorize the advertisement of a request for proposal RFP for automatic license plate recognition, parenthetically ALPR technology at selected intersections. And that looks like Mr. Firestein will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm also joined this afternoon by Lieutenant Willison, and I will strive to avoid the use of acronyms in my presentation.
So,
staff is seeking-
and what we need is an AFD. That's an acronym-free discussion.
Let's have an acronym-free
An
discussion.
AFD, yeah.
So staff is seeking direction from council this evening on license plate readers in 30 fixed locations. And specifically, we are looking to go out through a request for proposal process, competitive process, to seek proposals from vendors to provide those services here in Palm Desert. This was presented to the Public Safety Commission at their February 9th meeting, and they did support going through a competitive process for the selection of a vendor for license plate recognition technology. This is a tool that has been used in Palm Desert and in use since 2018 in 3 of our patrol vehicles. This technology allows law enforcement to capture the image of a vehicle passing through an intersection that then can be matched against law enforcement databases for review against stolen vehicles, stolen license plates, wanted persons, missing persons, and public safety related incidents. It can also be used in criminal investigations in a number of ways by providing law enforcement investigative leads. And in your staff report this evening, there are a number of instances where this technology has proven a useful tool for law enforcement. And in those senses, it may be considered a force multiplier, allowing law enforcement to operate more effectively in their jobs. As I mentioned to you, we are currently contracting with Vigilance Solutions for the use of mobile technology in 3 of our patrol vehicles. The recommendation before you this evening is to go through a process to look at how we could deploy this technology in 30 fixed locations across the city. The city of Rancho Mirage, the city of Indian Wells, since 2018 have either deployed this or have looked at deploying this in multiple locations throughout their cities. For Palm Desert, going through a similar process to deploy this in 30 locations across the city really would lock in this part of the Coachella Valley, those entryways, those egress points to and from Palm Desert, ensuring that there is that safety net, if you will, that is looking out for those vehicles. Many of the other installations that have been done, whether it's Rancho Mirage or Indian Wells, they're contracting with Vigilance Solutions. Staff report mentions recent action taken by Indio and the county to deploy flock safety solutions. Those have been done through a sole source contract. Staff is recommending that we go through a competitive process, as there are multiple vendors that provide this technology, and there are advantages of each of those. So by going through a competitive process, inviting those proposals, convening a selection committee with members of City Council, Public Safety Commission, and staff, there's an opportunity to weigh the advantages of each of those vendors and to identify and select the most appropriate vendor for Palm Desert. With that, I do want to make sure that Lieutenant Wilson has an opportunity to speak to council on the advantages of the system, and I'll close my presentation and open this up to any questions that council may have.
Thank you. Okay, Lieutenant Willison, would you like to add to that?
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Thank you for allowing me the time to speak on this. Used the, I won't use the acronyms, the license plate reader technology for several years now. As Assistant City Manager Firestein mentioned, it is already being utilized within our city on the mobile units. We were requesting to put these on the fixed units, or I'm sorry, on the fixed intersections on strategic points. We're one of the few cities within the Coachella Valley that does not have it implemented yet. I think, as previous comments have stated, moving forward with this type of technology, it's based on the price point is considerably cheaper than the cost of obviously the sheriff's department's cost of a deputy sheriff to deploy them out there with the personnel. It makes our people more efficient and allows them additional resources to be more successful at their job, while in turn reducing crime. And it has that safety component there for the critical missing persons as well. So I'm also available for any questions should council have any.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Okay, I see two questions. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Lieutenant Willison. I was wondering if by any chance you know how many cameras there are in either Rancho Mirage or Indian Wells respectively. Thank you.
Sure. Excellent question. The city of Rancho Mirage currently has 42. That includes their mobile and their fixed intersections. And I believe the Indian Wells just went live a couple of weeks back, and I believe theirs is approximately 10.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, I certainly understand the reasons for going to an RFP. Is there any strategic advantage in using the same technology as our neighboring cities in terms of our capacity to integrate the resources being deployed, since bad guys travel from city to city?
Oh, excellent question as well. So the technology itself, any technology is obviously better than nothing. There's advantages to each system, which we can definitely take a deeper dive into. But regardless, both systems, and then there are others out there as well, outside of the two that were mentioned. That technology alone, whether it is with Flock Safety or Vigilant Solutions, will provide us databases in order to be successful at catching the criminal offenders and leading towards successful prosecution. So regardless of which decision is made based on what's the best fit for the city, the technology itself is absolutely paramount to assist the staff perform their job. And that's just the technology in these systems now allows us to pinpoint things such as a particular bumper sticker or a certain characteristic on a vehicle, with the machine learning that's in one of these technologies, that's going to be captured. So whether it is in the if any criminal act is used where there is a vehicle involved, this technology that's already been implemented and we're asking for it to be implemented within the city limits. Each of these tools that the other cities have allows us to utilize their systems and basically just compound each other with that. So allowing for more successful detection and apprehension of the criminal offenders. I don't know if that kind of answered that or not.
If I can add to that briefly, I would also say that the Riverside County Sheriff's Department works with both Vigilant and Flock Safety. Our neighbors are using Vigilant. We're also using Vigilant at this point in our patrol vehicles. Predominantly the other cities that contract with the Sheriff's Department are using Flock Safety. Many cities are now moving over to Flock Safety. That's the solution that offers machine learning. We are not able to identify another vendor that offers a similar level of machine learning. that particular solution is also much less expensive upfront than the vigilance solution option.
May I ask something on this note? I apologize, I see hands up, but on this specific question, I think that the question kind of is more, you said Rancho Mirage has it and Indian Wells, so we're bookended with technology. Is there an upside to having continuity of similar technology so that they work together better?
Thank you. That's what I asked. And what I heard was no, that any of the prevailing technologies can be used to accomplish the continuity. Did I get it right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So Lieutenant Willison, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we were all at the Public Safety Commission, of course. I'm the city's liaison there. And as you recall, there was unanimous support for moving forward with an RFP. My question to you is one of timing. My recollection from that meeting is that there was the question was asked of you that if putting this into next year's budget, which begins in a few months, July 1st, would cause any detrimental effect, whether there was any sense of urgency that required us to act faster. And as I recall, your response was, no, that would be fine. Is my recollection accurate?
It is. Clearly, we, the quicker this technology is implemented in the city, obviously the quicker our staff has additional resources at their disposal without adding personnel to be more successful. But yes, I'm, just having the discussion is absolutely worthwhile, and it's something where we're one of the few cities in the county that does not have the cameras live.
Okay.
As far as, as far as at the fixed intersections. So this is important for some of our, as the conversations continue with some of our major business district areas, the Highway 111 El Paseo corridors. This technology in those areas specifically will be a very large implementation on apprehending criminal offenders.
Understood. Follow up, Mr. And I think it's Firestein, if I'm not mistaken. If council approves the recommendation of staff, then undertaking the RFP process and so forth would bring us pretty close to July 1 anyway. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Lieutenant Wilson, I was wondering if ballpark figure, it's not a pop quiz. In some of the material, the conversation was around the stolen plates, since we know that criminals can be pretty smart. So ballpark, how often do you see or apprehend folks that have had stolen readers or stolen license plates?
Several times a day, numerous times per shift. Just to put it into a ballpark figure for you, since going live within a couple of years in Rancho Mirage, they have over 32 million reads just in their city alone.
And can you elaborate on the 32 million reads? What does that mean specifically? Is it all in one focal point? Are they all around different places? Or is that as they travel maybe between Rancho Mirage and Indian Wells?
So the city of Indian Wells just went live a couple of weeks ago. So those figures are strictly going to be just for the city of Rancho Mirage. That technology within our partner city has solved numerous cases throughout all of the Coachella Valley cities. And out of those reads, obviously, it gives us hits or detections, which is in the hundreds of thousands. So with those, obviously, you're looking at recovered vehicles, critical missing persons that have been identified and located safely, felony vehicles, Amber Alerts, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Yes, please, Councilmember Kelly.
Looks like Mayor Pro Tem had his hand up.
Oh, another. Okay.
I was all loaded to move to approve as soon as it's timely.
Okay.
And I would second the motion.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
I think I need to change the color of my hand again, or make it blinking or something. You know, I certainly approve the motion. And I think the second part is to appoint a member of the council to participate in the selection committee, and as the city's liaison to the Public Safety Commission, I would be happy to do so. Thank you.
I'll tag that onto my motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Kelly.
And I'll tag it onto my second.
Perfect. We have a motion up and we have another hand, Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask for a little bit of patience from my peers, as I feel like I have to throw out some critical information and critical context. And whereas I know that we must support our law enforcement partners, whether it be the neighboring cities or our sheriff's deputies, I still have to present that there are Fourth Amendment concerns regarding the automatic plate readers and what that would mean for our community. So I'm wondering if maybe 30 is a little too much, where these would be. And I think that for me to feel comfortable with this, that's what I would like to know, where they would be. And I understand that's part of the RFP, but I feel it is absolutely critical to bring up that this brings up Fourth Amendment concerns, and this has been going all the way up the California Supreme Court. So just got to throw that out there.
Councilmember Kelly. You're muted.
This technology records something that's happening in plain view. There's no expectation of privacy on a public street in a public intersection. If an individual was standing at that intersection, they could record what they see. So this is simply an enhanced method of more effectively accomplishing what that individual would see. I appreciate you raising the issue, Councilmember Quintanilla. I think it's very, very important for us to assure the public that we're thinking about the balance between law enforcement and individual rights to privacy. But this is not a circumstance where I see those rights being threatened. If they were, it wouldn't be a function of whether it's 30 or 31. But for the reasons I described, I would urge us not only to vote for this, but to feel good about voting for this, because it utilizes information in full view in the public to accomplish our law enforcement purposes, and to that extent may diminish the need to use other older methodologies that may more likely raise Fourth Amendment search issues.
Okay, I see Councilmember Quintanilla's hand up again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Kelly, I agree with where the spirit of your goals of, yes, it is something that happens in plain view, but we also know that the idea of unreasonable search and seizures of people that are walking around on public sidewalks is not always respected. So I would love to see some of these stats from our partners at RSO. I believe it was the State Attorney General maybe about 3 years ago that required that whenever individuals were stopped, some demographic data would be collected. So I would like to see how arrests and convictions as so related to the automatic plate readers be looked at in conjunction with our local demographics to ensure that there is not overrepresentation of one group over another. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a good point that's raised by Councilmember Quintanilla. Government overreach should be a concern for all of us, and I think it is. I have a question in that regard to either Lieutenant Willison or Mr. Firestein. The data that is garnered by the automated license plate recognition technology, that data is, as I understand it, used for crime detection. Is the data used for any other purpose than that?
I can take that question. No, it's used. It's merely an investigative tool to assist our men and women out there with doing their jobs. This is simply put as we can make it. We do not use it outside of our scope. It doesn't get released. That data only gets accessed as needed when we need to obtain additional information for a call for service, whether that's a criminal investigation. The only scope outside of the criminal, which it would be beneficial for and or utilized, would be obviously someone in need of assistance where the peril of life is at stake. And that would be someone, critical missing person with dementia or other ailments where we have a vehicle or they were last picked up with a vehicle. This type of technology allowing us to get a direction of travel to further that investigation is, I can't put a price on, excuse me, you can't put a price tag on bringing a loved one back in a timely fashion versus we have absolutely nothing to go on other than hoping that another city's technology picked this person up.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Abstain.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 with Councilmember Quintanilla abstaining.
Did you abstain? Oh, okay. All right, we will now move to 21, which is the approval of a second amendment to the agreement for law enforcement services between the city of Palm Desert and the county of Riverside, contract number C38780. And looks like once again.
Good evening again, Mayor, members of City Council. I'd like to continue to have an acronym-free discussion with Council. So this second amendment to the law enforcement services contract looks to restore a deputy position to the city's business district team. During the budget development and adoption for the fiscal year 2021 budget, this position, together with several others, were cut from the budget as the city looked to make some budget cuts at the onset of the pandemic. And at the time, that was necessary as the city had an unclear revenue outlook, and as well as the closures and travel restrictions that were put in place had a direct impact on our businesses, our economy, and the services that were demanded of the Sheriff's Department. Those changes were made at the time that were made with a commitment that staff would continue to monitor the impacts of the decision and that they may be revisited as economic conditions improve. Tonight, there is a need to reconsider that, and staff has presented the staff report that outlines the need for that. The economic recovery in 2021 and 2022 has resulted in an increase in activity within the city's business core. Visitors have returned to Palm Desert, and there's abundant activity within the restaurants and retail stores within that area. This is great from our revenue standpoint. Taxes certainly have improved. It has also resulted in an increase in calls for service, and those have been managed by a smaller staff, which has resulted in a lower overall responsiveness to resident business concerns. And those concerns have resulted in frustrations that have been expressed to the city manager's office. That has prompted staff to reevaluate this cut to the business district team. Public Safety Commission considered this request at their meetings on January 13th and February 9th and recommended approval of the request. There was substantial discussion, however, about alternatives, particularly with respect to homelessness issues. In your staff report tonight, staff has outlined those alternatives that were considered. In addition to looking at a business district team deputy, we also did look at whether this could be covered by overtime or by the reallocation of a motor unit. Those moves have been in place since late last year. In staff's opinion, those are not sustainable. What we're seeing now is an increase in calls for service and demand placed on the business district team that cannot be met long-term through temporary overtime or by the reallocation of a motor unit. As well, there is a need to have this individual, this position, respond to calls for service. And that would rule out the possibility of using a community service officer, a CSO, there's an acronym, sorry, to meet that demand. We've also outlined the overall homelessness issue in the staff report, and there's more information on that. But tonight, staff is recommending approval of the second amendment to the law enforcement services contract to add back that deputy position to serve the business district team and that business core. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions that council may have, as is Lieutenant Wilson.
Thank you so much. And I do want to remind the council, we did receive a letter. I hope everyone got a chance to read it, from Patrick Klein, who is the chair of the El Paseo Business Improvement District. Are there any questions or comments?
I move to approve.
Well, and I will second, and I see two hands up, so I'm seconding for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, I wanted to commend the Public Safety Commission. This was very far from a rubber stamp of approval. They did a deep dive into the pros and cons, and especially alternatives that may or may not make more sense and perhaps would cost less. So their recommendation was not done lightly, and I want to commend them for doing such a thorough job in their analysis and ultimate recommendation. Thank you.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I echo the sentiments of Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan and the process that it took to get here for such a change. And I wanted to give appreciation and support for Deputy Nelson when I did the ride along and was able to see what his day-to-day is and the relationship he has, not only with the business owners, but our unsheltered community and his depth of knowledge of this part of Palm Desert. So I think it's critical to support as we see how to grow El Paseo and San Pablo. So I think it's a great amount of support.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Nestandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick?
Absolutely.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, so this is where we're going to jump around again. And we are back at 16, which is now a public hearing. And it's loading on my computer, so hang in there with me, please. It's the ordinance and resolution adopting a mitigated negative declaration in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, parenthetically CEQA, and approval of a change of zone to establish a higher residential density height, density 8 units per acre, tentative parcel map 38033, and a precise plan to construct 32 single-story condominium units, clubhouse, and pool/spa on 3.91 acres at the southwest corner of Gerald Ford Drive and Shepherd Lane.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Kevin Swartz, Associate Planner. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
So the subject property is 3.91 acres. It's highlighted in red. It's adjacent to Gerald Ford and Shepherd Lane. Bertola Avenue here, you have the Genesis property over here. And then across the street, you have the gallery, police station over here. For consideration tonight is to adopt a mitigating negative declaration. The applicant is asking for a change of zone. The current property is zone plan residential, 5 units per acre. The applicant's asking for 8 units per acre. There is a tentative parcel map to create condominiums, and then the precise plan to approve the 32 single-story condominium units. Just a brief background on the bottom here. At the end of 2020, the applicant did submit another project on the site. That project consisted of 4 two-story buildings fronting Gerald Ford, 4 two-story buildings in the middle, and then 8 single-story duplexes in the rear. That was presented to the Planning Commission on September 7th, 2021. The Planning Commission recommended denial based on the neighbors to the south had concerns regarding the density. The applicant at this time was asking for 48 units, which calculated to 12 units per acre. The neighbors had concern with privacy views from the 2-story units and that the project was not in keeping with the single-family, single-story neighborhood. So the applicant withdrew the application, and then the applicant, before they formally submitted to the city, they worked with the adjacent neighbors. They conducted public outreach. They met with the neighbors. The project architect did as well. They went door to door. They decreased the density from 48 to 32 units. This is now 100% single-story product at 15 feet 6 inches. They also provided the residents a 38-foot rear yard buffer to the back, and they collected 38 signatures in favor. This board represents that 38 signatures in favor from the residents behind. So that brings us to the current proposal here. You have Gerald Ford along here, Shepherd Lane. Access off of Gerald Ford is a right turn in and a right turn out. Then you come through the community, and then you get to Shepherd Lane. He would just make a left and then exit via Gerald Ford. There's 16 buildings, so a total of 32 duplex units. Each duplex is roughly over 1,300 square feet, consisting of 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Each unit does have a 2-car garage. That's what these triangles represent. And then each driveway is sized appropriately for 2 vehicles for guest parking. Along Gerald Ford, they do have a small clubhouse with a pool and spa. This green area here is a retention basin. There is a walking trail throughout the community, which you can see here that meanders. It goes all the way to the rear. They do have connections in between some of the units. And then this large area in the back here, there's 2 retention areas, but this is 38 feet, a buffer that would be heavily landscaped. The image on the right over here, this enlarged street clearance, shows that the street is sized appropriately for 2-way traffic. These gray boxes represent trash cans on trash day to show that the street will still allow for the traffic. There's 2 different styles. This is style A, but this is a perspective of a duplex. On the bottom here, you can see the garages. They offset a little bit. This has more of a pitched roof. And then up top here, you can see the front. Again, they're all single story. This is the perspective for style B. This one's a little bit more boxier. This is the architecture for the clubhouse along Gerald Ford. Again, it's single story. This one's at 14 feet 6 inches to the total height. And then this is the landscape plan. The landscape architect is on the call if you do have specific questions, but you can see the Gerald Ford is lined with shade trees and variety of shrubs. The rear definitely has a lot of shade trees. This is something that the residents behind wanted for screening purposes as well. And then you do see some shade trees and shrubs throughout the community. So the change of zone, as I mentioned, it's currently 5 units per acre. They're asking for 8 units per acre. Properties to the west and south are zoned 22 units per acre. To the north, south, and east, you have 5 units per acre. So staff finds that this density is consistent with the surrounding area. The recommendations, the project was recommended for approval by both the city's Architectural Review Commission and the Planning Commission. This project complies with the general plan, which has a maximum density of 8 units per acre. The tentative parcel map complies with the Subdivision Map Act to create the single parcels for condos. The project complies with all development standards, building height, setbacks, and parking. And staff is recommending that the city council adopt the city council resolution for the project and then pass to second reading the city council ordinance approving the change of zone. The applicant is on the line if you have questions specific for the applicant. And as I mentioned, the landscape architect is as well. And are there any questions of staff?
Thank you. Are there, oh, I see a question, Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you so much. I just have a question for, you said the landscape architect. I'd asked a question of staff earlier. I see that there's, I believe, 6 indicated medjool date plants and was wondering the reasoning for not going with our local Washingtonia folifera, the native California fan palm.
Opus, are you on the call?
Why don't we do the staff questions and then we'll go to the applicant? Are there any questions for staff? Okay, so there aren't any, so we will open the public hearing, and the applicant, if they would like, can give a presentation and remarks.
I believe I see Mr. Garza.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Opus Garza. I am an associate with the Herman Design Group, the landscape architecture firm. I don't see Sam on. So the landscape was designed with some help of the use of the neighbors for the screening in the back, the pathways around the site so that everybody could access. It's very kind of a dog-friendly area so that you could walk them around. The date palms that we specifically identified and put in place was just a formal accent as an entry piece for the project.
Okay.
I have a point of discussion, not another question, Mayor.
Fine.
My question was in regards to why that was chosen, in the sense that even if it's minimal watering that will be used to prevent it from growing a lot of the fruit, I'm just concerned with the fact that when we have our local corvid species, they love all of these, even if they're unripe dates. And I've seen communities where having those seems to invite the crows and ravens. And so that's just the question in terms of trying to mitigate the impact on the residents. As pretty as the non-native plants may be, I know that we've discussed sustainability, and part of that includes with going and placing native plants. Thank you.
So to that point, that's not a problem with going with the Washingtonians, whether it's the Robustas or the hybrid foliferas. I wouldn't want to use the Californias just because of the really big trunks. But that is not a problem in changing those to a Washingtonia.
Thank you.
May I add to that any palm has fruit, so they do attract birds of any sort. Now, I would, of course, as staff knows, I would never recommend the Robusta because of the maintenance and the mess they make when the wind blows, like we just had. But any palm is going to have fruit. So if the fruit's cut off, you're not going to attract. I have Washingtonia foliferas at my home. I watch the birds, they love it. I leave the fruit on. So if it's a design issue, I think it's important that we see what that is And, why it was important to use the date rather than the hybrid. And I understand why you didn't want to use the foliifera. I understand how large they are, but rather than the hybrid.
So again, it's just a little bit more formal than the California. That was the only reason it was picked. I have no problem with using the hybrid. The hybrid's still a very nice tree. Several different ways to get a different look on there, whether it's scanned or unscanned or skirted. So that it can easily be swapped out for the California hybrid, or the Washingtonia hybrid, excuse me.
Are there any other, oh, yes, Councilmember Nastandi.
Yes, well, it's not really a question. It might be for comments, because are we changing the palm tree now? Because I kind of like it the way it is. So I don't want to hold this meeting up. I want to hopefully approve this project.
Okay, so
I'm
then
confused.
perhaps if we have no one else who has questions, no public comments, let's close the public hearing and invite comments. So Councilmember Nastandi.
Yes, I want to thank the applicant, because he's come such a long way from what he originally wanted to do. And I like the way he went out and developed a community rapport, got their involvement, their input. So that is all wonderful. And I like this project, have a housing crisis, and I am ready to approve this project.
Councilmember Kelly.
I will briefly echo what Councilmember Nastandi just said by way of gratitude. I really want to thank both staff and the applicant for doing a model job of resident engagement with this project. You should make a video to give to other applicants, because the efforts to communicate with surrounding neighbors, to hear what they had to say, and to be responsive while still achieving the developer's goals here of slightly greater density of the neighboring properties and an alternative product all came together very, very impressively. So thank you. My suggestion would be that we approve requesting the applicant to take under consideration the input given by council on the palm tree issue, rather than seeking to decide that definitively tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm embarrassed to say that I really don't care what kind of palms those 4 trees are. So the applicant doesn't seem to either. So whatever is best is fine. I want to look at the bigger picture for a second and add my compliments to the developer for listening to the community and the neighbors, going from 2-story to 1-story. That's huge. And I really respect that the process they went through, and I wish all developers were able to would be able to emulate that. The other thing I want to observe that I really like about this project is it meets one of our goals and objectives, which is to create a wide range of housing opportunities, particularly economically. And I think this fits that goal, because I suspect that these types of duplex units, the price point will be lower than some of our single family residences that are on 10,000 square foot lots, for example, and yet very, very attractive. So I like that very much about the project. Well done, and thank you.
Okay, and I will just add to that, thank you so very, very much for working with the neighbors over there. I know that just created the tenor that we needed to move this forward. So we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you. Okay, now just to keep things interesting, we're going to go to 23, which is the ordinance to approve the zoning ordinance amendment to modify Palm Desert Municipal Code 25.34.060 regarding the timeshare projects.
Good
Do we have a
evening,
staff
Mayor, members
report,
of the
please?
council. The item before you, the staff is recommending or requesting a continuance to the March 24th meeting. We'd ask that you open the public hearing and leave it open so that we can come back on the 24th.
Great. I will open the public hearing right now and we will come back then March 24th, 2022. Okay, that was nice and easy. Thank you. We'll go to number 24, resolution to approve an addendum to the mitigated negative declaration and amendment to tentative parcel map 37157 for Monterey Crossing, an 18-acre mixed-use commercial development located at the northeast corner of Monterey Avenue and Dinah Shore Drive. And we have a staff report, please.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Rosie Lua, Planning Manager. The item before you is an amendment to the Monterey Crossings project, a project currently under construction. This project is at the northeast corner of Dinah Shore and Monterey. It was approved by the city in May 2017 for an 18-acre mixed-use commercial development. The development's approval included a mitigated negative declaration in accordance to the California Environmental Quality Act, including a focused traffic impact analysis recommending offsite improvements, including an eastbound triple left turn lane along the City of Rancho Mirage portion of Dinah Shore. In joint efforts with Public Works and in coordination with the City of Rancho Mirage, an independent study was conducted that demonstrated that the mitigation measure was no longer warranted, therefore may be removed as a condition of approval. So the request today for your consideration is to approve the removal of this triple left turn lane from this project. I am here to answer any questions on this process. I am joined by Randy Bowman, Deputy Director of Public Works, to answer any questions regarding the report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, are there any questions of staff? Okay, well, seeing none, then we will open the public hearing. And see if anyone, I see no one waiting to speak in the public. So if there is no one, no, I see no one, we'll close the public hearing. And we will open it to comments of council members. Yes, Councilmember Kelly.
Move to approve.
Good comment. Is there a second?
The motion?
I will second the motion.
And there is a second. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Pro Tem Jonathan,
Hi.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. That is our last agenda item. Is there any unfinished business at all? Seeing none, our next meeting is March 10th, 2022, and this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Stay safe and healthy, everyone.
Meeting adjourned 6:59 p.m.